first reading this morning is taken from Psalm 25 and reading verses 1 to 7 and can be found on page 459 of the Church Bibles. 459, Psalm 25, reading verses 1 to 7. To you, O Lord, I lift up my soul. O my God, in you I trust. Let me not be put to shame. Let not my enemies exult over me. Indeed, none who wait for you shall be put to shame. They shall be ashamed who are wantonly treacherous. Make me to know your ways, O Lord. Teach me your paths. Lead me in your truth and teach me. For you are the God of my salvation. For you I wait all the day long. Remember your mercy, O Lord, and your steadfast love, for they have been from of old. Remember not the sins of my youth or my transgressions. According to your steadfast love, remember me, for the sake of your goodness, O Lord. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God.
Thanks, Rowena. Morning again, everybody. So remembering is really, really important, isn't it? I wonder how many times you or somebody else uses these words. I have to admit, they make me a little bit nervous. They make me shiver and shake and think, I've got to remember that. I can't forget that. And it makes me sometimes really, really worried. Now, there are lots of significant things that we need to remember, aren't there? And things that people might be a little bit upset or cause a few problems if we did forget. I've got some ideas, but I wonder, has anybody got an idea of something that we really mustn't forget? Things day to day, or maybe once a year, something like that, that's really important that we remember. Brendan, go on. Birthdays, really. Imagine if somebody forgot your birthday. Imagine if, nobody remembered. That would be really sad, wouldn't it? Anything else? Other things that are really important for us. Sue? Don't forget your keys. That would, imagine being locked out your house because you'd forgotten your keys, or you couldn't get maybe in a car or something. You forgot your keys. Disaster. Any more? Brushing your teeth. That would be very uncomfortable, wouldn't it? I hate when I've not brushed my teeth, but then maybe a little bit smelly for everybody else. And your teeth would soon fall out as well, wouldn't they? Which would be a disaster. So yeah. And of course, dentist appointments. There's one thing, isn't there? They're very helpful these days, aren't they? They send us a text to remind us. But dentist appointments, anything else? This side have done great. Anybody on this side got an idea? Something we need to remember, Sally? Oh, important forms. Excellent, yes. So I've got a few things on the screen here, haven't I? There we go. Oh, home, nobody said about times tables, spellings, all kinds of things like that we need to remember. And these days, it's very helpful, isn't it? Because there are all kinds of different things that we have that help us to remember. Now, I've got some artifacts here, like these are things that you've probably, some people, never even seen before. Like these. Do you know what these are? I've got a birthday book here. What might I do with a birthday book? Joshua? What might I do with a birthday book? Can you see? I'll find a page there's quite a lot written on that one. Write people's birthdays. Anybody else ever had a birthday book? Brilliant. So you write people's birthdays in it. And this, even more archaic, this is an address book. In the old days, we used to write down people's addresses in books. I haven't got many in this one. Anybody still got an address book knocking at? There we go. Excellent. And other things here that I've got. I wonder, I'm sure you'll recognize this. What's this? It's not got its plug in, I'm afraid. So it's my Alexa. Thankfully, she can't talk to us because but I mean, how helpful are Alexas for setting reminders? I don't know if you do it. Alexa, set a reminder, and then it's there. Of course, you have to remember that once the reminder's been given, and you have to remember you've had the reminder, don't you? And I have this really handy little notepad as well. Make my little notes, put things on here to remind me, and super duper post-it notes. Stick them all around the place to remind us. Now, here's another one as well. I wonder if anybody knows what this might... Okay, this is even harder. Where do you put the knots? What do you want to do if you want to blow your nose? And, how do you remember what the knots even meant to remind you of? That was always my question. So I know I've got to remember something, but sometimes that can be worse, can't it? Because you're like, oh, what is it that I'm supposed to be remembering because I've got a knot in my hand? Anyway, today is obviously a very serious day of remembering. And we actually have all kinds of special artifacts that we might call them. They were just on the previous screen, I think, Johnny. I've gone ahead, haven't I? Sorry. There we go. That can help us to remember things, aren't there? So I've got mine on today. You might wear one all the time. But some Christians like to wear crosses, don't they? And we have symbols around church. Why do we have cross symbols around so much as Christians? Why is that a really important thing for Christians to have around? What does it remind us of? Jesus dying on the cross, doesn't it? People who are married generally wear a ring to remind them that they're married, just in case they might forget. And today, lots of us are wearing poppies, aren't we? So that we can remember the people who gave their lives, people who died in conflict, wars, people who, as Debbie said, were injured and have to live with those effects. So that's exactly what today is about, isn't it? And why we're wearing our poppies. Because probably being the generally, often, sometimes forgetful people that we are and we can be, if we didn't have a day on which we deliberately reminded ourselves to remember those who've lost their lives in war and conflicts, then we might forget to remember them. And that would be wrong, because they gave up so much so that we can enjoy the freedoms we have in a country like ours. The right to vote for who we want to be our Prime Minister, so that every adult can have a say in how they think the country should be run. Now, we've got a psalm to look at this morning, though, haven't we? Psalm 25. So if you've still got your Bibles there, grab your Bible and look it up. Psalm 25. Rowena read the first section for us, and Caroline is going to come and read the rest in a minute after we've had our minute silence. It's on page 459. And there's something really, really important that David needs God to remember, isn't there? Something God wants David to remember, something God knows he needs God, something David knows he needs God to remember. Did you notice what it was? Have a look. Psalm 25, verse 6. Anybody that's got their Bibles there? What does David need God to remember? It's on the screen. Two things. First of all, he wants God to remember his mercy, doesn't he? And his steadfast love. Now, mercy, we've talked about lots of times before, isn't it? It's not giving him what he deserves. And his steadfast love is his unfailing love. Now, are they still there? There have been some water bottles and an umbrella hanging around here for a little while. People have tidied them up because we had some special services earlier on today, didn't we? But it's not like God's capable of forgetting his mercy and his steadfast love, like we're capable of forgetting our keys or an appointment and going out of church without our things that are important. But David knows that he needs God to show him his mercy, to show him his love. Otherwise, he's stuck. But he knows he can ask God with confidence to show these to him because he's done it so many times before. For they have been from of old. Do you notice? God's always been like that. He's always been merciful. He's always been loving. So we have every reason to believe that he will continue to be in the future. They are who God is. We've been seeing this in our Digging Deeper series in the evening. When God spoke to Moses, he referred to himself as the Lord, a God merciful and gracious, slow to anger, abounding in steadfast love and faithfulness. That's how Moses knew God. This is how David knows God. Hundreds of years later, exactly the same God. He's not going to change. So that's who our God is. He's merciful and he's steadfastly loving towards his people. He's faithful. He's never going to forget it. He can't be, even when his children forget about him. But God loves it when his children remember who he is, and when they remind him of who he is and hold him to it. So it's a little bit like if somebody's promised you something really special. Now, I don't know what you're doing for the rest of the day, but is there anybody who's looking forward to something really good, either later on today or maybe this week or maybe even going on towards the end of the year? Come on, Barney, what are you excited about? Brilliant. So Barney's been invited to a party. Now, what if Barney's friend suddenly, is it today? So can you imagine if your friend suddenly thought, oh, I'm going to cancel my party? That would be rubbish, wouldn't it? And there'd be no point in being excited about the party. But Barney can be excited about the party because you know your friend. And you know your friend's hoping that his friends will want to come to his party, looking forward to his party. So you can be confident that the party's going to go ahead unless something terrible happens, and you're going to have a really good time. Brilliant. It's the same with God. We can be confident he will be merciful and loving towards us because he's not going to change. Elliot's looking forward to something too. See, this side have come alive now. We've asked them what they're looking forward to. Go on.
The F1 Grand Prix.
Is that today? Over lunchtime? This evening, so we've got to stay up late to watch it. Oh, gosh, well, there we are, double whammy. So Elliot's looking forward to a late night and watching the F1 Grand Prix later on. And again, unless something terrible happens, Elliot can confidently look forward to that because he knows that the racers are really keen to prove that they're the fastest and the best drivers, and it's going to go ahead. Is Joshua looking forward to something? Go on, what are you looking forward to, Josh? Uncle Betty and Auntie Stu. They're coming to visit. Lovely. And I bet they're just as excited to be coming to visit you as you are to have them. So we can look forward and that's exactly the same as it is with God. He's going to stay true to his promises because he's God. So it's like a deal, a really strong promise, covenant that God's made with us. He's not going to forget about it. He's not going to change his mind. So we can be really happy and confident when we remind God of who he is and what he's done. We can dwell on him. We can savor every moment of joy and excitement. And that's what David's doing here with God. He's saying, remember your mercy, O Lord, and your steadfast love, for they have been from of old. God, you're merciful, you're loving, you always have been, so please continue to be to me now. And we can continue to make that very same request of God ourselves, even this morning. Remember your mercy, O Lord, and your steadfast love, for they have been from of old. Now, it's obviously nearly time for our 2 minutes silence, but thankfully, we don't have to think about what our country might have been like had God not enabled us to win the wars, would we? Because we did. But if we imagine that we weren't able to succeed against Hitler and other leaders that wanted not great things for this country, then it wouldn't have been good, would it? We'd have been in a pretty difficult situation in this country. We might not have been able to choose who our leaders were. We might not have been able to enjoy lots and lots of the freedoms that we do. There are some countries where people aren't even allowed to gather for church, where it's not even possible to say out loud, I'm a Christian, without getting into trouble. And that would be really bad. But actually, worst of all would be if God wasn't merciful and loving towards us. And we're going to think about that after Caroline's brought us the second reading after our 2 minutes silence. But it is 10:59 now, so if it's okay with you, we'll have our 2 minutes silence. Paul will then play the organ at the end, and then Caroline will bring our second reading after that.
The second reading is taken from the same psalm, Psalm 25, carrying on from verse 8 to the end. Good and upright is the Lord. Therefore he instructs sinners in the way. He leads the humble in what is right and teaches the humble his way. All the paths of the Lord are steadfast love and faithfulness for those who keep his covenant and his testimonies. For your name's sake, O Lord, pardon my guilt, for it is great. Who is the man who fears the Lord? Him will he instruct in the way that he should choose. His soul shall abide in well-being, and his offspring shall inherit the land. The friendship of the Lord is for those who fear him, and he makes known to them his covenant. My eyes are ever towards the Lord, for he will pluck my feet out of the net. Turn to me and be gracious to me, for I am lonely and afflicted. The troubles of my heart are enlarged. Bring me out of my distresses. Consider my affliction and my trouble, and forgive all my sins. Consider how many are my foes, and with what violent hatred they hate me. O guard my soul and deliver me. Let me not be put to shame, for I take refuge in you. May integrity and uprightness preserve me, for I wait for you. Redeem Israel, O God, out of all his troubles. This is the word of the Lord.
Thank you, Caroline. Okay, so sometimes things happen, don't they, that we would really rather not remember. Things that we don't want to remember, and things that we don't want anyone else to remember, ever. We wish so hard that we could go back in time and make it like that thing had never happened. Perhaps we told a lie. Perhaps we hurt someone. Perhaps we said something really mean. Now, you don't need me to stand here and share my list of regrets and failures, ways in which I've messed up, and just wish that I could forget, because I'm sure every one of us has our own. And so did David. Did you hear that verse 11 that Caroline just read for us then? David prays to God and he says, pardon my guilt, for it is great. David's guilt is great. And our great guilt is great as well, isn't it, if we're honest? Not great in a good way, but great actually in a really, really bad way, if we stop and think about it. But so very often, we just don't, do we? We'd rather forget. We'd rather brush it under the carpet, pretend like it hadn't ever happened. But pretending isn't real, is it, unfortunately? And really, we know it's still there. And we can often feel quite ashamed of ourselves, can't we? Did you notice some of the other descriptions that David gave for how he's feeling? In verse 15, he said that God's going to pluck his feet out of the net. So he feels like his feet are stuck, trapped, like he's trapped in a net and he can't get out. He admits this in verse 17 as well. The troubles of my heart are enlarged. Bring me out of my distress. David knows that he needs God, who sees everything and knows everything, to forget, to forgive his sin. And only then will he be able to have a clear conscience. Now, back in verse 7, in the section that Rowena read, David said something really important, didn't he? Remember not the sins of my youth or my transgressions. Transgressions is just another word that we use for sin, isn't it? David knows that he needs God to choose not to remember all of the things he's done wrong, all of the things he's ashamed of, all of the ways in which he knows he hasn't loved God as he should have done, and he hasn't lived as he ought to have done, and he hasn't loved other people as he knows he should have. Instead, David knows he needs God to remember who he is, that he is loving and merciful, and to remember that he's promised to have mercy on and to forgive the sins of all his children. He makes that point again in verse 11, doesn't he? For your name's sake, O Lord, pardon my guilt. That's about God's name, God's reputation. We thought about it with the commandments, didn't we? That we need to honour God's name. God has to be loving and merciful and forgiving because that's who he is. And he's promised to be that to all of his children, those he calls his friends, and he's not going to break that promise. Did you notice verse 14? The friendship of the Lord is for all those who fear him, and he makes known to us his covenant. We love having friends, don't we? Has anybody here got friends? Hope we all have, yeah? They make it, what are the good things that our friends bring to us? Anything good what's good about having a friend? Any ideas? What do we appreciate about our friends? We can talk to them, can't we? We can be with them so that we're not on our own. They can help us. God promises that for all of his children, doesn't he? How incredible that the God of the whole universe is saying to us that we can be friends with him. And then this covenant, this really important promise, as we were thinking about. Joshua's relatives have promised to come this afternoon. Barney's friend has promised to have a party, and the Formula One drivers have promised to have a race. And hopefully they'll be able to keep those promises. But as people, we can't always, can we? The only person who can always keep his promises is God. When God makes a promise, he always keeps it. And so David can go on praying to God in this psalm, confident that he will do it. So let's have a look. What does David ask God to do? He asks him in verse 16 to turn to him and be gracious to him. Look at him and be really kind. Makes a difference when people look at us, doesn't it? Means that they've noticed us, that they're paying us their attention, that their focus is on us. Trying to not look too closely at any of you because I don't want to be scary, but actually if God turns to us, it's incredible, isn't it? The eyes of the God of the whole universe turn on us in friendship, in love, in promise. And then other things that David asked God for. He asked him to guard his soul in verse 20, to protect him, to look after him and deliver him. David absolutely doesn't want God to forget about him. He wants him to look at him and to protect him. Unfortunately, I think lots of people try and hide from God. Now, hiding can be quite fun, can't it? And we've thought before about the great places that we can hide things. But even Christians sometimes try and hide from God. And I think we do it because we don't really trust him. We don't really trust him to be good and kind and merciful and gracious towards him. And we don't really trust him sometimes to keep his promises. Sometimes we can worry too much, can't we, about what other people think of us. And we can worry less about what God thinks of us and showing God how much we trust him. But thankfully, I think God understands how forgetful we are. We've done pretty well today, haven't we, at remembering the people who died in the war, and that's right, and a really good thing to do. And if we keep our poppies until Tuesday, then that will probably help us to continue to remember them. But I wonder, how hard do we try and make sure that we remember everything that God is, and everything that God has told us, and everything that God has promised us? How well do we try and set up our lives to make sure we can't forget about God? Now, we're all in church this morning, which is brilliant. That's a great way to do it, isn't it? And we're all very different and have different things that we enjoy and are meaningful to us. So I'm really not standing here trying to tell you what you should and shouldn't have in your house. But actually, lots of Christians find it really helpful to surround themselves with things that are going to remind them to remember God. Now, I don't know if the beady-eyed amongst you might have spotted, there's 4 Bible verses from today's psalm around church that I've just popped onto bits of paper. So if you've spotted a Bible verse, can you grab it and bring it to me, please? And I'll grab a few more of my props I've got over here. Thanks, Bonnie. Perfect. Lovely. There we are. Bonnie's got one. Brilliant. There should be 3. There we are. Isabella and Noah have got them. That's it. Lovely. Thanks, guys. Perfect. Has Florence gone to get one as well? Thank you, Florence. There was one right at the back there. There we go. Lovely. That one's lost its blue tack. Where's the blue tack with it? Is it there? Lovely. Oh, thank you very much. That's helpful. Save me splitting it. Thanks, Florence. Where's it gone? Oh, she's left the blue tack. Should have said. Sorry. Thank you, Florence. There we go. Could have put them in order. Never mind. It doesn't matter. Perfect. Thank you very much. Lovely. Great. Right. So this is one way, isn't it? I mean, this isn't the neatest and fanciest at all, but you could make a brilliant job, I'm sure, just sticking Bible verses around your house. Other things that I've just picked up from our house, not that we're holy at all, but there's a mug here. This is Russ's. It's not even mine. And some coasters with Bible verses on there. Just when you pick up your cup of tea and you look down, you can see it and you can remember, cast all your anxieties on him because he cares for you. And then little crosses, like we said before, things like that. A journal, so you can write down after you've been reading in the Bible and like colour in a picture with a Bible verse to help you think about it and remember it. Memory verses. And then this is a beautiful Hannah Dunnett picture. She does lovely artwork, doesn't she? Just to have things around that are going to remind us, because we are so forgetful as people. So, just as we finish, we haven't learned a memory verse together for a good while, have we? So, I would like us to finish this morning by having a look at one of these verses, and literally there wasn't anything particularly special about this verse that I chose. I could have chosen any of the verses from Psalm 25, but I thought we'd have a look at verse 14. The friendship of the Lord is for those who fear him, and he makes known to them his covenant. Because if we can all remember that verse this week, hopefully that will really, really encourage us to remember that if we fear, if we trust, if we love God, he will be our friend and he will keep his promises to us. So, shall we have a go? We're not going to split up or anything like that. We're all going to try and remember it together. So let's say it through together, and then Johnny's got it dropping a verse or two, after a word or two. Sorry, not a verse, it's the whole verse. Okay, so let's have a go from the top. Psalm 25, verse 14. The friendship of the Lord is for those who fear him, and he makes known to them his covenant. Okay, can we do it? The friendship of the Lord is for those who fear him, and he makes known to them his covenant. Psalm 25, verse 14. I even forgot to put the reference in. Sorry, there it is without it. Let's say it first. Psalm 25, verse 14. The friendship of the Lord is for those who fear him, and he makes known to them his covenant. Brilliant. Psalm 25, verse 14. The friendship of the Lord is for those who fear him, and he makes known to them his covenant. Well, if you've remembered that next week, come and tell me, and we'll be delighted. Debbie, do you mind if I just leave all that stuff? Thank you.